Welcome back to the Color Report. You know what a day it is. Free Market Friday. That's tonight. First up this evening, pink slips in Wisconsin. As of today, public workers are on notice. But is it enough to bring the missing Dems out of hiding and face the music on the unions versus states battle royale? Look, I'm going to say it flat out. You know me. Strict limits on government unions is a must if we want to lower spending and stop the bankruptcy. Lower spending's pro-growth, pro-jobs, pro-lower unemployment, even pro-financial prudence. But let's see what our panel has to say. Here now we have WABC radio talk show host and my great friend Mark Simone. We also have John Tamny, editor of Real Clear Markets and Forbes Opinions, and Bernard Whitman, president of Whitman Inside Strategies. Mark Simone, this story in Washington has become an unbelievable national story, in some ways dwarfing the budget battle in Washington. Are the state government unions bankrupting America?
Well, I think the problem is everybody's too strong with their language, and that might be turning off some people. Bankrupting? I don't know. Making them less efficient, costing us a fortune, raising the price of everything.
$3 trillion in unfunded liabilities?
It's bad. Bankrupting? Maybe that's a strong word.
So should the Democrats come out of hiding? How do you justify Wisconsin State Senate Democrats hanging out in spas across the line in Illinois?
No, I like that. They
voting.
should all go hide in motel rooms and never come back. That part I like. But, you know, also you said strict limitations on unions. How about just sensible limitations?
Sensible.
Just change the words. You know, most of the great work rules that have really helped workers, you know, merit hiring, you can't fire anybody without just cause, those weren't through collective bargaining. Those came through government regulations, through civil service laws, not through the unions.
All right, so Bernard Whitman, let me go to you. You're going to have a different point of view. But I want to ask you, isn't this the greatest political battle of our time? All of a sudden, out of the blue, the last 6 weeks, the greatest political battle of our time. If the Democrats lose this battle, they're going to be sunk for generations.
Well, first of all, no, it is not. I can think of far greater political battles like the battle for civil rights and actually the battle to win this deficit. But here's the problem. Demonizing unions is the Republican version of class warfare, and it's got to stop. Why? Because they're missing the point. The strategy has not worked. These 1,500 pink slips are a complete sideshow and a joke. And the people of Wisconsin do not support the hard line that Governor Walker has taken on the unions. He's upside down, 57% disapprove, 48%, almost a majority, strongly disapprove. Nationally, Americans 2-to-1 against taking away collective bargaining rights.
So you're just talking yourself into this. You just think this is a terrible Republican mistake. And all this publicity and all this momentum and all the state bankruptcies and all the analysis is just a big trap for the GOP.
No, I don't think it's. I think it's a huge trap for the country, which is why we have to go away from the sideshow of demonizing and blaming unions and actually put in the hands of responsible politicians in partnership with a responsible set of unions who come to the table and agree that we've got to tackle these unfunded pension liabilities and rising health care costs. We've got to do it.
John Tamny, is the phrase responsible government union an oxymoron?
It's a complete oxymoron. I mean, the last I heard, government workers were public servants, yet we have public servants that vote themselves benefits on the backs of taxpayers. And so I would disagree. I think this is a great political opportunity. We basically, voters have woken up to the fact that when these people vote themselves benefits and gold-plated health deals and high incomes, that draws down the income of the private sector workers in these states. This is the ultimate battle, and we need to take it on.
You know, Mark Simone, it's the ultimate battle. Look, what's to say that these government unions in New Jersey and New York and Wisconsin and Ohio and California aren't going to do to those states what the private unions did, let's say, to the UAW or the U.S. Steelworkers? Those companies are gone. We had to bail out General Motors. Isn't the same thing happening at the state level?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's right. I don't want to demonize unions, but let's be honest.
Go ahead.
There are businesses that have been destroyed by unions.
Right.
Newspapers that had to have 12 guys on a press that only needed 3. The reason a Broadway ticket is $100, $50 of that is union waste and ridiculous costs, and it's happening in government, and that's our money. That's our taxpayer money. So you don't want to demonize unions, but you want to bring them back to the original purpose. You know, originally these unions were heroic, fighting for their workers against the big corporations.
But they didn't have.
Then the
but
union
collective bargaining for government unions is relatively recent in American history.
Well, that's true, and what he's talking about is collective bargaining for wages, but not for work rules, which I believe is the system that Obama uses himself.
There you go. At the federal level, the federal unions cannot collective bargain either for wages or benefits. So, Bernard, why should it be any better at the state level? Why not have the exact same thing?
Because I think at the state level you have a different set of circumstances, and I think that what we actually need is not a fighting on the collective bargaining rights of the unions, but forcing the unions and forcing the political class into real negotiations. To fault the unions for these rising costs is basically giving the political class a get-out-of-jail-free card, and I think it's time we hold both parties responsible for effective negotiation, and that's what it's ultimately about.
Don't the public unions basically own these state legislators? It's kind of like the oil companies used to own the state legislators 100 years ago, except today it's the public unions.
But we can
they just own them.
But we can no longer afford to foot that bill.
I understand.
am in agreement.
So you agree with that?
I am in agreement.
All right, that's progress. I'm not going to even press my luck. I want to go on to the second subject about something called fiscal prudence. Now, House Speaker John Boehner said yesterday that he and his fellow House Republicans plan to offer their own 2012 budget, and they're going to take square aim at Social Security and Medicare entitlements. So the question before the House on Free Market Friday, is this going to be political suicide, or is this the right move at the right time to tame the political beast and give the GOP credit? Bernard, I liked you so much on unions, I want you to lead us off on entitlement reform. Look how brave John Boehner is being, and look how cowardly your man Barack Obama is.
My God, he did it. He touched the third rail of American politics, and you know what? Everything I hear, the Speaker is still alive. I've got to give huge credit to the Speaker for coming out and saying that. Yesterday, he indicated that if the President went out ahead and said, I want to put entitlements on the table and start this conversation, that the Republicans would not come after him. A day later, Boehner comes out and says, look, it's not that we're going to have plans and programs and policies in place, but we're going to have goals starting the conversation. We've got to educate the American people. The President missed a huge opportunity not to come out this afternoon and say, Speaker Boehner, I applaud you. I'm in this with you. Let's go down the path together.
I want to see if you agree with Bernard, our Democratic friend. Is it political suicide for Boehner or not? Now, Boehner's not going to give a detailed blueprint. They're just going to show containment costs and caps on entitlements. But how do you stack up the politics of this? Is John Boehner doing the right thing?
It's never political suicide if you pull it off. You know, Rudy Giuliani stepped on a lot of third rails, but he pulled it off. He fixed the budget. He lowered the crime. If you win, if it works, you're a hero.
But you know he won't. The House Republicans, you know that the President will not let him win. You know the Senate Democrats are not going to let him win on entitlements, right?
No, but it's back to common sense. There are common sense cuts you can make. There's waste, there's fraud, there's all sorts of stuff in there. If you do it right, you'll end up being a hero.
John Tamny, will we ever in our lifetime, or maybe I should say my lifetime, give the individuals in the Social Security system the freedom to make their own retirement investment with their payroll taxes? Will that ever happen, so-called private accounts or personal accounts?
I certainly hope so, and we have an easy way to do it. We've got, everyone agrees now that Social Security is costing too much. Give those who are old the chance to stay in Social Security. Tell us younger people, if you want to opt out, you are allowed to. And those that don't, I mean, I guess we'd say they're congenital socialists, but I think most Americans would love to have their own Social Security, plan their own retirement.
Bernard, are you a congenital socialist? Because you don't agree with John Tamny,
I was going to say there's tens of millions of congenital socialists who are out there thinking, my Lord, I'm so glad that Bush plan failed. My whole savings would have been wiped out. But what we ought to do is not try to privatize Social Security, which would be a complete boondoggle, but do the minimally responsible thing, raise the retirement age to 68.
John, what's your reaction?
Why not?
Wait a second. I'm not asking for privatization. I'm asking for the right to have my own retirement. I'm asking for the choice to opt out. For those who want to stay in, they can stay in. So it's not privatization. I just want choice to run my retirement
And George Bush was onto something there.
Right.
That was the first draft. Obviously, you wouldn't want to be all in stocks.
But you are an astute investor. You and I talk about this all the time on radio. Huh? You're an astute investor. You should manage your own money. I got to get out of here. They're screaming at me in the control room. Mark Simone, John Tamny, Bernard Whitman, I'm Larry Kudlow. We will see you Monday night as we all manage our own Social Security funds.